A seat card at Wimbledon Centre Court, July 12th, 2026. The name printed on it reads George. The lettering is clean, the cardstock crisp, placed on a cushioned seat in the Royal Box. The particular care reserved for people whose names open doors. Beside it, another card reads Charlotte. Beyond those two cards, other seats stretch along the row, empty and unmarked. No card reads Archie. No card reads Lilibet. The institutional divide begins with a piece of cardstock and ends with an ocean. 4 grandchildren of the King of England. 2 were photographed at Centre Court that afternoon, seated in chairs reserved for them by name, dressed in clothes chosen to signal belonging. 2 have never been photographed at any royal event in the United Kingdom. 2 have never sat in any royal seat, in any institutional setting, on British soil. The divide is 48 hours wide. On July 10th, Harry arrived at Highgrove alone. 2 days later, his niece and nephew sat in the royal box as if the divide did not exist. This is a story about 4 cousins separated by structure. George is 12, Charlotte is 11, Archie is 7, Lilibet is 5. They share a grandfather, a surname, and a bloodline that reaches back 1,000 years. They do not share a single image together. George and Charlotte attend public events with the regularity of children whose lives are scheduled by an institution. Trooping the colour in June, standing on the Buckingham Palace balcony in outfits that match and do not match in carefully calibrated ways. Christmas at Sandringham, walking to church on paths lined with well-wishers holding cameras and small flags. Wimbledon in July, with seat cards bearing their names and posture that suggests rehearsal without ever confirming it. They are photographed constantly, relentlessly, because being photographed is their institutional function. The camera is their inheritance. The frame is their home. Archie and Lilibet have never attended a royal event on British soil. They have never appeared on the Buckingham Palace balcony. They have never walked to church at Sandringham. They have never sat in any royal box, at any ceremony, in any institutional setting in England. They live in Montecito, California, in a house surrounded by eucalyptus trees and Pacific light. The closest they have come to the institution that carries their family's name is a screen. Their invisibility was established by structure. And invisibility, once established, becomes its own condition. The photograph exists. George in the sunlight, his face composed and attentive, carrying the focused stillness of a boy who has been trained to sit in important rooms. Charlotte leaning forward slightly, her chin lifted with the easy confidence of a child who has never questioned whether she belongs. Catherine beside them, a hand resting on her son's arm. Her composure carried the calm of someone who has returned from something difficult and is determined to be present. The image ran in every paper in England the following morning. It showed what the institution wanted the world to see. Heirs seated, composed, present, belonging. 48 hours before that image was taken, there was nothing to show. Harry arrived at Highgrove on July 10th. The estate sits in Gloucestershire, set back from a road lined with hedgerows, surrounded by gardens that Charles has tended for decades. The grounds smelled of cut grass and the sweetness of an English garden in full July bloom. Lavender and old roses and the dense green scent of boxwood baking in afternoon heat. The gravel path from the car to the front entrance was short. Harry walked it alone, his footsteps slow on the stone, his jaw set against the afternoon silence. No one walked beside him. No child held his hand. No family emerged from the car behind him. The estate was quiet in the way that very old, very expensive places are always quiet. Conditions had been established before his plane landed. 1 hour. Supervised. Camilla would be present as institutional witness. Harry came without Meghan, without Archie, without Lilibet. The institution required his isolation as the price of contact with his father. The terms were clear. A son could see his father, but only as a single person. Only stripped of the family that defines him. Only alone. Inside, the room smelled of beeswax and cut flowers from the estate gardens. A vase sat on a side table, with the casual precision that only carefully maintained houses achieve. Summer light fell through tall windows onto panelling darkened by decades of English weather. The furniture was old, comfortable, the kind of furniture that holds the impressions of everyone who has ever sat in it. Charles sat waiting. His face carried the particular expression of a father who wants to see his son and knows the wanting has been made conditional. Harry sat across from him, and between them, structurally, physically, Camilla occupied the position that controlled the geometry of everything spoken. Her seat faced both men. Her posture was composed, hands resting in her lap. Her gaze moved between father and son with the patience of someone who understands that the room belongs to her, not because she owns the house, because the conditions that define the room are her conditions. Harry's shoulders dropped as he settled into his seat. His breathing shifted. His hands rested on his knees, and his fingers pressed into the fabric of his trousers. The silence before anyone spoke was thick enough to taste. The meeting lasted 60 minutes. No image was produced. No visual record left that room. A record would have shown what the institution could not afford to display. A king and his estranged son, separated by protocol and furniture. A woman whose presence between them was the architecture of the conversation. Harry left Highgrove after 1 hour. The gravel crunched under his shoes as he walked back to the car. The garden was still blooming. The hedgerows were still green. England was still golden in the afternoon light. The same light that fell across the same gardens his mother had walked through, when this house was supposed to be her home. He had not seen his children's grandfather in more than a year. His children had not seen their grandfather in longer than that. Archie is 7. He would not recognize Highgrove. Lilibet is 5. She has never seen it. The meeting designed to bridge the distance between grandfather and son had been structured to widen it instead. From its first condition, it ensured that the other grandchildren remained on the far side, invisible, uncounted, outside the frame. No phones, no cameras, no family. The door of the car closed behind him. The estate absorbed his departure the way old houses absorb everything. Silently, completely, without changing at all. Inside, the room where he had sat for 60 minutes returned to its ordinary quiet. The flowers on the side table continued to open in the afternoon warmth, and the conditions that had governed his visit folded themselves back into the architecture of the house, ready to govern the next one. Then came July 12th, and a different kind of evidence. In the days surrounding Wimbledon, a separate image surfaced. Charles with George and Charlotte. The setting was warm, informal, the kind of image the palace releases when it wants the public to see the human behind the institution. Charles's hand rested on George's shoulder with the easy weight of a grandfather's affection. His fingers were relaxed. The touch was natural. Charlotte smiled beside them, her face open and trusting, tilted slightly toward her grandfather with the unself-conscious lean of a child who feels safe. The light was soft. Everything about the image radiated the closeness the public craves from its monarchy. The warmth was genuine. Charles loves George and Charlotte. Every pixel proved it. A grandfather who is present, engaged, physically connected to the children standing beside him. But the warmth was also a weapon, because it proved something else entirely. Charles can be a present, visible, loving grandfather. He can place his hand on a child's shoulder and smile with uncomplicated joy. He can stand in soft light and embody everything the word grandfather is supposed to mean. He can do all of this for 2 of his 4 grandchildren. The photograph was published with captions about the king's close bond with his grandchildren. The word was singular, as if 2 constituted the complete set, as if the other 2 had never been born, and the framing nearly held. The public saw a warm grandfather, smiling children, continuity and affection, and a monarchy that looked, for a moment, like any loving family. Outlets ran the image with headlines about closeness, about legacy, about a king building bonds with the next generation. The editorial framing was generous and complete and almost entirely convincing. The narrative held together for days. Comment sections filled with warmth. Social media shared the image with captions about what a wonderful grandfather Charles seemed to be. Television presenters smiled when they showed it. The word family appeared thousands of times beneath a picture that contained half a family. The other half was uncounted. The other half was in California, where no camera from this institution had ever been pointed in their direction. The narrative was almost convincing. The warmth was almost enough to fill the frame. 2 out of 4 is not a bond, it is a fraction. Archie is 7. He has never stood beside his grandfather for any published image. He has never felt that easy hand on his shoulder, the one captured in the image with George. Lilibet is 5. She has never felt her grandfather's hand on her shoulder in front of a lens. She has never been lifted into a frame that the whole country would see the next morning. The warmth directed at George and Charlotte is genuine, but the warmth is exclusive. Exclusion expressed as warmth is the cruelest architecture an institution can build, because it resembles love while functioning as a wall. Charles was diagnosed with cancer in early 2024. Treatment continued through 2025 and into 2026, and his public schedule has been scaled back. He is 77 years old. He is the king. He is also a grandfather who has held 2 of his 4 grandchildren for photographs. He has not held the other 2 in any setting the public has ever seen. The detail transforms this from structural observation into something urgent. The grandfather is not young. The grandfather is not well. And the window for certain photographs does not stay open forever. The family portrait that includes all 4 grandchildren has never been taken. George and Charlotte have been pictured with their grandfather many times. At palaces, at public events, in the warm settings the palace releases to show the family as human. Archie and Lilibet have not. Every event that passes without that portrait makes the missing image more permanent. Every Wimbledon, where 2 grandchildren have seat cards and 2 do not. Every Highgrove meeting conditioned on isolation. Every supervised reunion that produces no family image and no record that a wider family exists. The portrait grows more impossible with each passing season. The window for one grandfather with 4 grandchildren in a single frame is narrowing. The institution has done nothing to hold it open, and the things that institutions do not do are often the most powerful things they do. The divide is structural, it is also temporal, and time is the one resource no institution can manufacture. July 12th. Centre Court. The retractable roof pulled back, letting summer light fall across the grass in long golden rectangles. The thwack of a serve echoing through the stadium, sharp and clean, followed by the hollow bounce of a ball striking the baseline. 15,000 spectators tracking the rally with a single collective breath. And in the Royal Box, George watched with the focused stillness of a boy trained to sit in important seats. He was 12 years old, sunlight warm across his face. Catherine had introduced her children without titles. Just George. Just Charlotte. Casual belonging is the most potent form of institutional ownership. She sat beside her son, her hand resting on his arm. Her composure carried the calm authority of a woman who knows where her children stand in the order of things. Charlotte leaned forward, chin lifted, her posture carrying the confidence of a child who has never questioned whether she belongs in the room. Her eyes tracked the ball with genuine interest, and when a point was won, she straightened with a small, satisfied nod. The crowd rose for a winning shot. Sound washed across the Royal Box like a wave. Applause and voices and the deep hum of a stadium alive with 15,000 people watching a rectangle of grass. George clapped. Charlotte clapped. Catherine smiled beside them. 3 people in important seats, at an important event, belonging without effort. The image the institution had spent decades building. And somewhere across an ocean, in Montecito, 2 cousins close to their age had never heard that sound. Never from inside a room where their names were printed on seat cards. Archie has never sat in a royal box. Lilibet has never had a seat card. The distance between Centre Court and Montecito is measured in cardstock, and the cardstock that does not exist is the loudest absence in the stadium. George does not understand this yet. He is 12. Learning to sit in important rooms and carry a name that opens every door in the country. He watches tennis and shakes hands, and learns the particular rhythm of public life. Charlotte does not understand it either. She is 11 and wears belonging like a second skin, inhabiting institutional spaces with the fluency of a child raised inside their walls. Archie is 7, old enough to notice when cousins appear on screens, and he does not. old enough to ask questions that have no good answers, old enough to understand the word grandfather and wonder why his grandfather appears in images with other children who share his last name. Lilibet is 5. She knows nothing yet. She will learn. Children always learn. All 4 will eventually search their own names. George will find images, hundreds of them, thousands, a lifetime of institutional visibility captured in pixels. Charlotte will find images. She will see herself on balconies and at sporting events and in the Royal Box at Wimbledon. Archie will find an absence where images should be. Lilibet will find the same absence, shaped exactly like her. The first thing these 4 children will understand about their family is that it is divided, that the division was decided before any of them could speak. They did not choose sides, the institution chose for them. The choice lived in conditions and seat cards and supervised meetings, in the quiet certainty that some grandchildren are counted and others are not. The photograph that cannot exist is the verdict. No camera was confiscated, no photographer was turned away, no palace official issued a statement declaring that 2 grandchildren would be included and 2 would not. The image simply cannot be composed because the subjects are never in the same room. George and Charlotte live inside the institution, in palaces and royal boxes and Christmas services, where cameras document their every public breath. Archie and Lilibet live outside it, in a house in California, where the Pacific light is warm. The institution is a story told by parents about a country across an ocean, and the grandfather who loves all 4 lives inside a structure that only frames 2. 1 king, 4 grandchildren, 2 realities. No decree excluded the invisible grandchildren. The institution simply stopped counting. And being uncounted is its own sentence, delivered in the blank spaces where family portraits should hang. In the empty royal box seats where no cards were printed. In the Christmas mornings, spent on different continents. In the silence that fills the space between a grandfather who loves 4 grandchildren and a structure that only acknowledges 2. Centre Court is empty now. The Wimbledon fortnight is finished. The cushioned seats in the Royal Box hold no one. Seat cards have been collected, names removed from their holders and filed away until next year. The seats that were never assigned to Archie or Lilibet require no clearing because they were never used. An empty green tennis ball container sits where George left it, bearing the Wimbledon logo, its hollow cylinder catching the last of the evening light. It is the kind of thing a 12-year-old forgets, trivial, hollow, a leftover from a childhood afternoon in an institutional seat. Beside it,